If you travel long enough, you start to notice a pattern. In hospitals far from home, on ships crossing entire oceans, in private homes, airports, hotels, construction sites, there is a familiar presence. Not loud, not demanding attention. Just there. Across continents and cultures, the same faces appear, working quietly, efficiently, reliably. Most people don't ask where they're from. They just assume the work will get done. And that assumption is where the story begins. Because some of the most globally present people on Earth are also the least talked about. This is not coincidence. It is a pattern the world has grown used to without ever stopping to explain it. This is the story of why Filipinos are everywhere, and yet rarely named. In many parts of the world, Filipino workers are not rare. They are routine: the nurse who works the night shift, the seafarer who keeps the ship running while passengers sleep, the caregiver trusted with aging parents. Their presence is so common that it fades into the background. When systems work, no one asks who is holding them together. Airports move on time. Hospitals remain staffed. Homes remain cared for, and the people making this possible are rarely introduced. Not because they are invisible, but because the world has learned to depend on them quietly. Their names are not headlines. Their stories are not trends. Yet remove them, and entire systems begin to slow. Being everywhere does not guarantee being seen. And for Filipinos, this has become both a strength and a burden. This global presence did not appear overnight. It was shaped over decades, through history, migration, and necessity. For many Filipinos, opportunity was rarely local. It was something to be found beyond borders. As countries around the world faced labor shortages, Filipinos were already prepared to move. They arrived with skills that translated easily across systems, training that met international standards, and a willingness to adapt quickly to unfamiliar cultures. Over time, this movement became structured. Networks formed, pathways opened. What began as individual decisions slowly became a global workforce, present in places that needed stability more than visibility. And as years passed, something else happened. Filipino workers stopped being seen as temporary. They became foundational. Their presence became expected. Their reliability became assumed. And that is how being everywhere quietly became normal. In many cultures, success is announced. It is measured by visibility, recognition, and volume. Filipino culture took a different path. From an early age, many Filipinos are taught that respect is earned, not requested. That humility is strength. And that doing your job well is its own reward. This mindset travels with them. In workplaces around the world, Filipinos rarely lead with ego. They don't compete for attention. They don't demand praise. They focus on what needs to be done. And in systems that reward loudness, this quiet reliability often goes unnoticed. Not because the work lacks value, but because it lacks noise. Over time, this creates a paradox. Filipinos become essential, while remaining unnamed. Trusted deeply, but rarely discussed. Large systems do not run on admiration. They run on reliability. In hospitals, shipping routes, care facilities, and service industries, what matters most is not who gets noticed, but who shows up consistently. Over time, institutions learned something important. Filipinos adapt quickly. They work across cultures without friction. They remain steady when conditions are difficult. This made them ideal for roles that could not afford failure. The result was trust. Not the kind that is announced publicly, but the kind that quietly shapes decisions behind the scenes. Contracts were renewed. Recruitment pipelines stayed open. Entire operations adjusted around their presence. And yet, this trust rarely turned into recognition. Because when something works perfectly, people stop asking why. They simply expect it to continue. Being everywhere comes at a cost. For many Filipinos, visibility was never the goal. Survival was. Behind the stable systems and reliable labor, our lives lived in between departures and returns. Parents watched their children grow through screens. Children learn to recognize voices before faces. Important moments are postponed. Grief is delayed. Joy is shared across time zones. This distance is rarely counted in economic reports, yet it shapes the quiet endurance the world depends on. Because when someone carries this level of responsibility, they do not treat their work casually. They understand what it means to be needed, even when they're not seen. And that understanding has become part of the reason Filipinos are trusted so deeply, while remaining largely unnamed. The world is changing. Populations are aging. Workforces are shrinking. Pressure on essential systems is growing. In this reality, reliability matters more than ever. Countries don't just need workers. They need people who can be trusted across cultures, languages, and crises. This is where Filipinos continue to stand out. Their ability to adapt quickly, their comfort working far from home, their reputation for steadiness under pressure. These qualities are not temporary advantages. They are the reason recruitment continues, the reason pathways remain open, the reason global systems quietly plan around Filipino labor, not because it is easy, but because it works. And as the world grows more uncertain, the need for people who can be relied upon without hesitation only increases.